हेलो। अभिषेक, कुछ बोल तो।
हेलो। आ रही है ना?
रिकॉर्ड लगाए थे ना, वही चेक करो।
ठीक है। 2-7 पे स्टार्ट करता है, तब तक अगर तुम्हारा कोई फ्रेंड नहीं आया तो बुला लो। स्क्रीन विजिबल है तो एक बार 1 लिख दो। ओके, देन स्टार्ट करते हैं। ठीक है, तो अर्लियर इन योर प्रीवियस क्लास यू वर टॉट अबाउट एरेज, राइट? फॉर एरेज, we know they store elements of same type, same data type, and they have a fixed size, right? तो ये हमें पता है कि एरेज हम इसलिए यूज करते हैं कि जब हमारे पास सेम टाइप के एलिमेंट्स हो और हमें साइज ऑलरेडी नो हो। ठीक है, तो अब कंसीडर द प्रॉब्लम कि यू आर गिवन एन इंटीजर्स, you want to print all the odd elements in the sorted order, rather than sorted in the ascending order. Let's keep it non-descending. Okay, so प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट क्लियर है? एक बार 10 लिख दो। ठीक है, तो इफ प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट इज क्लियर, कोई अप्रोच बता सकता है कि क्या करोगे? And suppose, for now, just suppose you have an imaginary function which is sort. इसमें if you pass something, then it prints the sorted order. Okay, so Mohit wrote obtaining odd integers and then sort. Okay, just one thing. You don't know already कि how many elements will be present in the array, how many odd elements will be present in the array. So how will you store them? Mm, you can also unmute and speak. If you are comfortable. Store in vector using vector in vector first sort and then print odd. Okay. So Raj Gautam has written a solution where uh, he can first sort and then print odd. So that is definitely a good solution, right? For those who don't know vector yet. But if you know vector, uh, vector is basically uh, like for such situations, vectors are really helpful. Okay, so now from now we will talk about vectors only. Okay, so about vectors, uh, again the same thing. They store similar type of elements, or we can say they store elements of the same data type, but their size is dynamic. Some people also refer to it as uh, dynamic sized arrays, so also known as dynamic uh, sized arrays. Okay, so basically now we will talk about the syntax, like how to use vectors in your code, right? For using them in your code, like for arrays, what you do, you just declare some library in the headers and it automatically knows what is an array, right? So for vector also, there are simple library. So mm, library to include is vector, and you can include it by hash include, but it is better to use uh, a general header which includes all the STL containers and functions by default. Uh, hash include, right? It automatically includes all the containers and functions in the STL library. So you don't have to write for each of them separately, like hash include vector, set map, which we are going to study now. Okay. So for usage, this is the simple use. Let's go to the code once. Okay. So for this, again, use that general header bits slash std c++ dot h, and then using namespace std. This you must have used earlier, right? And then, so now we will talk about the general syntax, how to uh, declare a vector, or basically declaration. So it is vector int v, just like this, right? So basic syntax, if we talk about the basic syntax, it is vector data type name. Okay, and this data type can be anything. Like for arrays also, you can create array of string, int, char, float, right? So this can be anything. Okay, so this is the general uh, way to declare a vector. Now we just said that we can declare a vector even if we don't know the size, right? So suppose I have declared a vector and now I want to add an element at the back of this vector. Then how would I do? What can I do? So there is a member function known as pushback. So what it does, uh, it adds, and keep in mind I am calling it adds. It adds an element to the back of the vector, and uh, its syntax is this. In parenthesis, you need to specify the element that needs to be added, right? It adds t to the back of the vector, right? So if I use v dot pushback 20 and then v dot pushback 30, and now if I and like getting the values at zeroth position or one first position, it is similar as arrays only. Like for getting the first value, you can use v dot 0, and for getting the second value, you can use v dot 1. And let's try to run this code. Okay, so we can focus on the output. The output is 20 and 30, as it should be, because we first added 20 to the back and then 30 to the back, right? We can also comment it here. Now v is 20, and here now v is acha. This is visible now. This font is visible, right? Mm. Okay. Okay then. So we have what we have seen so far: how to declare a vector and how to add element to its back, right? Now there are other things also. Like if we talk about uh, since the same way that you have also heard about time complexity, right? So for time complexity, what its time complexity is, it is order of 1, right? It has some constant factor, but it is constant, right? So we can consider it as O of 1. Like now similarly, like pushback, there is another function called pop back. Similarly, like if it was adding an element to the back, now it is removing an element from the back. So you can do pop, and for popping we don't need any parameter, right? Because it and the same time complexity is again 1. And now if we talk about v dot pop back, then after this, now v is again 20. and sorry, it will be 20 comma 30. Right now v is again 20. Okay, so this much is clear, right? These three things: declaration. Uh, okay, you guys can't speak, yeah? Let me. Is it better now? Okay, pop back. I'll explain again. But first, tell me if the font size is clear or readable now. Okay. So for pushback, so first, let me just repeat once again in brief. For declaration, we just this is the syntax. We first write vector, it is a keyword. Then in angular braces, we write the data type. As we have discussed here, it stores element of the same data type. So we need to declare, write the data type of our vector, like which type of element it is going to store now, right? So we write the data type here, and then the name by which we are calling this vector, right? So here we have created a vector of integer data type, and we have named it as v, right? And now after that we have discussed the two functions, right? One is pushback. It takes an element e and adds that element to the back of the vector, right? Uh, Now, if the size of the vector, or we can simply say the size of the vector increases by 1 after this operation. And similarly, okay, so here we have taken example. We first have pushed 20 into the vector, and now the vector will contain 20 because initially it is empty, right? We pushed 20, now it will contain one element 20, and we again then push 30, now it will again it will contain both 20 and 30, right? Now similarly as similar to pushback, there is one pop back, right? Pushback was adding one element to the back, it is removing one element from the back, right? And time complexity is again order of 1, and for this function as well we can write the statement: the size of the vector decreases by 1. And now on this vector, if we use pop back once, it will remove 30 from the vector. Okay. And now tell me if everything till now is clear or not. Random. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Anikesh. Digvijay's answer is correct. Hmm. Okay, so now we know a way to add an element to the vector, remove an element from the vector, but we we also can get an element from any particular index, right? We have used v0 and v1, but how we will know what is the size of the vector, right? For that also we have a function dot size. Uh, it returns the size of the vector, and it returns an unsigned long integer. Okay, and again, if we talk about time complexity is again constant. Okay. And if we know, say, if we know the size of the vector, can you write a for loop to print all the elements inside a vector? Just try and write it in the chat. No, don't tell me you can write. Just try writing and write it in the chat only. What is unsigned long integer? Uh, if you don't know about unsigned integer, they are basically, you know कि every number in computer is stored in form of bits 0 1 0 1, right? And if you want to store negative numbers, they use a dedicated first bit. Like for first bit, they use just to determine the sign of the number, like if it is positive or negative, right? And if you are not if you want to store only positive number, then we don't want to use this bit as to denote the sign, because we are storing only positive numbers, right? So in that case we can declare any integer as unsigned, right? You know about long, and if you want it to be always positive, you can use unsigned long, right? It will never store the one bit for sign. So this is the basic understanding, and it does not really matter, right? If it is returning an unsigned long, it is not going to make any change to your code, that you can miss this detail. Okay, some of you have written Pratyush, yes, it is correct. But what is n? We don't know the size. Digvijay, length is not correct. L. Okay, Pranjal Singh. Yeah, this is correct. V dot size. We will do a for loop for till v dot size. Okay, Satvik, you are taking input. We talked about we need to print. Dev, yours is correct. Abhinav, it is correct. Uh, yeah, last one is also correct. Okay, so we talked about it, right? So for this, we can use simply for, like for array, what you did. You already know the size. Say it if it was n, you just use n and you printed vi, right? But now there is no n, right? Because the size is dynamic, we are changing it by pushing back and then popping back. So what we can do, we can just simply run a for loop till v dot size. So whatever it is, we can run a for loop up till that. So now what if I run this code now? If I run this code now, what do you think will be the output? Gaurav says 20. What about 30? Aditya says 30. Abhinav 20. 20. Okay. So what we did, let me just go back. We pushed 20, then pushed 30, then we are popping back. So what element will be popped back? The last element only. So 30 will be popped back and we will become 20. So it should be like this only. Let's try. Okay, we got 20. Right. So we talked about pop, pushback, pop back, size. We already know how to access a particular element. Now, let's say C vector is useful, right? It is more useful than arrays, but it is a bit slower because it is allowing you these operations, pushing back. But there must be some complexity, although it is almost constant, but it still takes some time, or say some more time than arrays. Okay, let's just go through the idea of how vector is allowing us to do so. So first, when we declare a vector, mm, it assigns us one memory space, which means we can store only one element, right? Now, if we push back one time, then that element is assigned to that memory location, right? And now if we again try to push back, now the compiler sees key, okay, this vector does not have any more space. So what it does, it creates a new memory space of double the size of previous location. Double the previous size. Okay. So now, and then it copies the all the previous elements to this new location and then adds a new element, right? So earlier, if it was one, uh, it added that element. Now, if we want to add two element, a second element, then it will allocate a new memory space of size 2, copy the first element, and then insert the second element, right? So, if we talk about n elements, okay, then how many such copy will be created for first element? How many times, or we can say how many times first element will be copied? 20. Okay, so that was previous answer, sorry. Say we have pushed back n elements into the vector which was initially empty. Then, if we talk about, if it is using this approach, right? So how many times first element will be copied? Some says 2 to the power n, some says n minus 1. N times, okay. Okay. Have you read this condition? I have said it creates a new memory space of double the previous size. So it means, from 1 it will create a mem 2, and then from 2 it will create 4, then 4 it will create 8, then 16, and so on, right? And whenever this new space is created, the first element is going to be copied, right? So how many times this new space will be created before reaching n, before reaching this value greater than equal to n? Log base 2n says Gaurav. Digvijay says 2 to the power n minus 1. Hmm. Vishal says log base 2n. अच्छा दिग्विजय और प्रत्युष, बताना चाहोगे क्या सोच रहे हो, मतलब क्या रीजनिंग है तुम्हारे आंसर के पीछे? You guys can unmute and speak. I'll give the permission. Okay, Digvijay.
सर
हाँ प्रत्युष बोलो।
सर एवरी टाइम मतलब वो स्पेस मतलब अपना 2 टाइम्स कर रहा है, तो फर्स्ट से सेकंड पे गया, फिर सेकंड से फोर्थ पे। सर फिर ऐसे ही 8 16, तो सर फर्स्ट स्पेस को छोड़ के सर एन टाइम वो लूप चलेगा, तो सर उसके हिसाब से n-1 मतलब
नहीं
फिर
नहीं, एन
रॉन्ग
टाइम्स
पड़ेगा।
कैसे चलेगा से? एक बार अनम्यूट कर लो प्रत्युष। या अगर तुम ये सोचो कि n16 था, ठीक है, तो n16 के लिए कितनी बार चला, कितनी बार कॉपी हुआ?
Sir, please repeat.
से मैंने यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन पूछा n एलिमेंट्स के लिए, राइट? सो अगर हम मान लेते हैं अभी n16 था, तो फर्स्ट एलिमेंट कितनी बार कॉपी हुआ?
सर 4 बार।
16.
4 बार, ठीक है। अब प्रत्युष तुम कह रहे थे, अब प्रत्युष एक बार म्यूट कर लो। हाँ, तुम 2 to the power n-1 कह रहे थे, तो 2 to the power 16 - 1 2 to the power 15 हो जाएगा। वो तो बहुत ज्यादा नहीं हो गया?
यस सर, सर नहीं समझ पाते क्वेश्चन, समझ गया, ठीक है।
अब समझ में आया कितना
यस
होगा?
यस सर, log 2 बेस है।
ठीक है, +1 - 1 रहने दो, बस सिम्प्टोटिक एनालिसिस की बात करते हैं। तो if we talk about this, it will be roughly order of log n times, right? So this is a raw idea. It is not exactly log n, right? It is a bit optimized in that sense, but it is a rough idea how vector is implemented under the hood, right? Mm, we can say it as implementation idea, because it is a bit like some, it depends upon compiler to compiler, like as much as I can remember कि जावा के अंदर कुछ रहता है कि it starts with some 50 or 100 size, and then it not exactly doubles, it adds some 100 element or 1000 more space to the vector. So this depends on the compiler, and yeah, but this is the raw idea कि it every times after the size exceeds, it adds some more space and then copy all the previous element to the new one, right? So this is the crude idea. Now if we talk about, let's say you want to declare a vector of size n, then how will you do declaring a vector of a particular size? So you can do this by vector int a n, like for now 10, right? So it will create a vector of 10 size, like its initial size will be 10, and all of its elements will be 0, right? mm, initial size is 10 with all elements being 0. Right. There is one more way you can use it as vector int b 10 and 1. So can you guess what it is doing? Okay, Raghavan has said something. Sir, of n में तो n number of steps होता है ना, अपन यहाँ पर वन कॉपी कितने बार हुआ उसे क्यों लिख रहे हैं n की जगह? Okay, so I was just trying to give a rough idea of how it is implemented, right? Because one we were talking about first element because one will be the element that will be copied the most number of times. Okay, so all of you have answered correctly in this. Yeah, this declare a vector of size vector b of size 10 with all of its element is 1. Okay, then we can copy this comment with all element being 1. Right, so this we have done. Say, mm, then if we want to take input like for any programming question, what happens? We generally, for array, we declare an integer and takes input, create an array of that size, right? But you can do the same for the vector as well. So for with the vector, int ab and then take the input. Okay, so you can use vector instead of arrays as well, and it won't cause much of the difference in the time complexity. It's a bit slower, but most of the problems that you can pass with array, you can also pass with vector, right? So, okay, so this is done. We know how to declare a vector of a particular size. We know how to initialize every element with some default value. Okay, now say if you have already declared a vector and now you want to change its size, right? So what we can do, v dot resize. Let's say, yeah, if I do just one question, if I do v dot push back 11, and if I try to print b, and let's change the size to 2 for now. So what will be the output? 1111 111111. But I have keep in mind I have declared the size as 2. Someone wants to speak and say they can also speak. Duplicate copy will be created of B. Yeah, so you guys are correct. Like vector is dynamic. It doesn't matter if you have already declared the size. If we are push so remember like here it is 20 1 so I guess 20 is from here and then again it is 1 1 11. So when I talked about pushback, I emphasized on this point. It adds an element, right? And it increases the size by one. It doesn't matter what size we have already declared. It will increase its size by one. Also, if I did this uh, in A as well, right? Its all element are zero only, but still, it's the size of A after this line 52 will become 11, right? Because pushback always inserts one element at the end, right? So this thing I wanted to clarify. Yeah. And now if we talk about, yeah, and now there is another function known as resize. If you want to resize an array, it resizes the vector to n. So there are two things. If vector contains more than n elements, then it will delete it. If vector contains less than n elements, then it will append, not delete, delete the extra elements. It will append zeros. Okay, so this thing is clear, right? Okay, so let me just give you an example. Earlier we had this array, right? V, which only had 20 for now, and what we can do v dot resize 5. Okay, and now if we try to see for int I equals 0, I is less than v dot size. Okay, so this 20 is from earlier, and now for to make it as an vector of size 5, it has appended 0 to it, right? And now if I try it with appends 4 zeros, make it of size 5. Now if I do v dot resize 5 comma 1, it will append ones instead of zeros, right? So if we comment that line, okay, so now we have 20 1 1 1 1. Now okay, so if I run it now with both of them, line number 58 and 59, write in chat what will be the output. Okay, there is one question which asks, sir, only linear vector can be defined. No, no, no. There can be multidimensional vectors as well, and I'll come to it. Okay, now write the output to the program now. Aditya says 1111. Raghavan, rest are saying 0. Abhinav says both. Okay, there are many answers. So just think, what is resize doing? Resize is making the vector to of a particular size, right? Earlier, before the line number 58, v is of size 1, right? At line number 58, it will make it as a size of 5. And now we have not passed any other parameters. What it will do, it will append 4 zeros, right? After line number 58 and before line number 59, the size of vector v is 5, right? And now if size of vector v is 5, and now again we are trying to resize it to 5, what will happen? I have written, like, if there are more elements in the vector, then it will delete the element, resize operation, and if there are less elements, then it will add append zeros, or if we have provided a second parameter, it will append that element, right? But now there is nothing, it's neither the case 1 or nor case 2, because at line number 59 our vector is already of size 5 only. So what this resize operation do? It will do nothing, right? And if we talk about time complexity, it is linear. Okay, so yeah, we were on this. So it will do nothing because it is trying to resize a vector, and it will add 1 only when the size of vector is less than what is required. But now we don't have any like deficiency of elements, so we already have 120 and 4 zeros. Now this line won't do anything because the vector size is already 5, and the output will be 20 and 4 zeros. Yeah, see, this is 20 and 4 zeros only. Got it? Write 1 or 0. Okay, so everyone who wrote 1111 or any other answer, it is clear to everyone, right? Okay, then. Uh, Now we know how to resize. Okay, but let's say somehow I resized earlier, and now I want to assign some value. Like, I know my vector size is n something, and now I want all of its element to be something else. Okay, so what you can do, just remove this. There is another function, dot assign. It takes 2 parameters. Mm, yeah, 2 parameters, assign and e. Up to what element you want to assign and what you want to assign. So assigns first n elements to be e, and its complexity is again order of n. And we can check this out now. V dot assign 5 minus 1. Okay, and now if we try to print it again for auto I. Yeah, this 20 is from before, and after that, these 5 elements are -1 now. If we try it out using 3, then what will happen? First 3 elements will be -1. Okay, it has decreased the size as well. So let's check. Okay, it is resizing to n elements. Resizes the vector to n with all elements as e. But for this, okay, so I discovered this today only. So if I do it, if I try to increase my vector size using assign, will it work? Yes, it is working. So earlier the size was 5, after that the size is 6, and there are 6 minus ones after that. It is working. Okay, and we can remove this. Okay, so now we know resize, assign. What else? Okay, so you must have seen whenever I'm trying to print, most of the time I'm trying to write this first, right? So I'll explain to you what it is. So we are talking about STL, right? STL is basically consists of containers, iterators, and functions. So if we talk about this, so STL consists of containers, iterators, and functions. Okay, so what are containers? Uh, Vector int is a container. It is containing some elements, right? Mm. Iterators. We know iteration from uh, for loops, right? So iterators are somewhat like pointers, and they help us to iterate over the values in the containers, right? Mm, okay, so in array, if there is an array, mm, then ARR is an iterator, or you can say as a pointer to the first element. So if let's say if it is 1 2 3 4 5, and we try to print cout ARR, we can't print pointer, right? So to get the value of the printer, we use star. We Okay, and now if after that I increase my pointer, and not like that. And if I try to print this, see, so ARR is coming out to be 1 and this is coming out to be 2. Let me just put an end of line after this. See, this is 1 and after that it is 2. So this is uh, so in array we have this, but what for vectors? For vectors, uh, and we have iterators, and for it iterator what you can do, vector int. So this is the syntax to identify कि we are creating an iterator of किसके लिए iterator create कर रहे हैं हम, vector of int के लिए iterator create कर रहे हैं. And let's say if we are talking about v array v dot begin. So v dot begin returns an iterator to the first element, returns an iterator which points to the first element of vector v. So let us just write down dot begin returns an iterator to the first element. Okay, and if similarly if we try to print cout star I, or okay, so after that I'm trying to print the first element of I, first element of B using the iterator and see what will happen. Yeah, we got -1, right? For in iterators you can do I++ or for iterators we can do I++, I minus minus, I plus equals to, yeah, I plus equals I plus D, anything, right? So these operations are visible. If you want to go to the next element, you can do I++. Uh, yeah, if you want to go to the iterator of the next element, you can do I++. If you want to go to the element iterator of the previous element, you can do I minus minus. Similarly, these operations work. And just like iterator this and this, there is another, like v dot begin, there is another v dot end. It returns an iterator to the so here is a confusing thing, to the element after the last element. So so you must be wondering, there is no element after the last element, right? So it is pointing to that memory location which is after the last element. Okay, so you have to understand it this way. Okay, so this is a pointer to the memory space after the last element. Okay, and if you want to use this, so another way to define the Okay, so we will come to that. First of all, so this is a really uh, like difficult syntax to remember. So what you can do, since v dot begin is going to return an iterator, right? And since v is of type vector int, we also all the compiler should already know that this is going to be the type of this v dot begin, right? So what we can do, we can just write auto j equals v dot begin. So these two lines are same only. We can use this auto to automatically determine the type of what it is going to be, right? And mm, okay, so now can you write a for loop? Can you write print all the elements of the vector using this iterator? And you don't know the size, so just try and write it. Okay, so what do you mean by pointer? So you can leave it for now. You don't just think about. No, don't use auto yet. I have not introduced the syntax, Raj. Try to use it, print it using iterator. Okay, there are two things, right? Abhibhav and Pranjal, they both have written. There is only one difference in their code. Pranjal has used iterator less than v dot end, and Abhibhav has used iterator not equal to v dot end. Okay, iterator part is not clear. Okay, let me just go through it. So screen is visible, right? Yeah. Mm, Iterator is just like you you still haven't read about pointers. So first leave it. We can Iterator is another way to access the elements of STL container. So that makes sense, right? It is just another way to get the access to elements of containers, right? So if we talk about v dot begin, begin is starting, right? So start it returns an iterator, right? It is something that is helping us to get access to the elements, right? So begin is something at the start, right? So it returns an iterator to the first element or the starting element. End is something that something has finished. So it returns an iterator to the memory location after the last element. So it is just something, iterators are something that is helping us to iterate over the elements. So what you can do, iterators you can do, we can do mathematical algebraic operations like plus plus, minus minus, addition, subtraction, but we can't do comparison, right? So we can't do comparison between between iterators. So I equals j. So this will give compilation error. ठीक है? So if we can't do less equals or less than greater than, so let me I greater than j or I less than j. So this will give compilation error. So what can we do? Auto I equals v dot begin. So earlier what we can do, we run the loop until I is less than the size. But now I is an iterator, right? Because we are starting it with v dot begin. So we can't do less than. We use not equal to v dot end. And we can do plus plus, right? I told algebraic operations are supported. And what we can do, we can just use cout star I. Okay, so we are getting all the elements. So now is it clear? Raj, but you have asked this scope operator, and for now it is not really necessary to understand what it does. Sir, can we say iterators help in getting access to the elements of the container? Yes, that is what iterators do. Okay, so everyone is clear with what iterators are doing. So for now, you must not be seeing any way to use iterator, because we could have printed the elements of the vector without using iterator, right? But most of the functions, like not most, some of the functions of vector uses iterators in their it uses iterators as their argument. Okay, so if we talk about, okay, and there is another way for this, I colon v, and you just have to do cout I in this case, not star I. So this is another way of printing an array. This is known as range based loops. So it will iterate over all the elements of v. You can use it on array as well. If v instead of v, you could have used it on array. Okay, if there were a array of size 5, then it would have worked with arrays as well, right? For now, let's keep it v and try to see if it works. See, in both of them, we are getting the same output. Okay, but now we should know, like I said, some of the functions uh, need iterator as their argument. Okay, we have some questions. Please say about auto once. Means it is like for each loop. Okay, in for each loop also, we what is this I? We are printing this I, and it should be the value, right? And what value we is storing? We is storing int. Okay, and since we have declared v before, where we have declared v, we have declared v here, right? So the compiler automatically knows that the value of v are going to be integers, right? So if we write it auto instead of explicitly specifying it as integer, uh, then compiler automatically deduces that it is going to be an integer. and you don't need to care. So otherwise, if you could have written int as well, it would have worked. Yeah, again the same output, right? So sometimes it is convenient to write auto when we will see where auto is useful. Now let's talk about the reverse function. Takes two argument, starting iterator mm, or what we can iterator of the starting element, iterator after the ending element. So this keeps in mind iterator after the ending element. What it does, reverses the order of all of the elements between uh, starting, ending. Right, we have used the starting and ending here, right? So all the elements in between, including those, I have used a square brackets, right? Including those elements, it reverses them, right? If 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 5 and our starting is 1 and ending is 5, it would convert it to 5 3 2 1. Okay, so how is it useful? Say if we want to let's first change the value of the vector v. Its size is 6, right? So vi equals I. And now say if we want to reverse all those values, what we can just do, reverse. We want to reverse the entire vector, right? So first element of the vector is iterator to the first element is v dot begin, right? We have written it here. It is the iterator to the first element, and end is the iterator uh, after the last element. We can just simply write iterator after the last element. So is someone trying to say anything? Okay then. Okay, so what we can do, reverse v dot begin and then v dot end. Okay, so after this, if I try to print it again, yeah, it is printing the vector in the it has made the vector reverse, right? Earlier what it should be, यहाँ पे क्या होना चाहिए था वेक्टर को? It should be 0 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we have seen the use of reverse. Similarly, there is one function sort, and it is very useful, right? Because implementing your own sort function is very difficult. Not difficult exactly, it will take time, right? So again, this part is similar. It will first take the iterator of the starting element and then iterator after the ending element. sorts the element starting, ending. Again, I have used close braces. And if I use sort here, v dot begin, v dot end, and then I try to print it again. So what will be the output? Right, it in the chat. Yeah, easy, right? We are just sorting the entire vector, and it is just storing this element, which was reversed by this operation. But now we're sorting. Okay, we forgot to discuss the time complex. Reverse operation is time complexity order of n. After this, the vector it will print the vector. It will sort the vector basically. So again, now it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and what will be the complexity of the sort function? Any guesses? Some says n log n, some says n. Okay, some of you log base 2n. ठीक है. So some of you might have studied in your C programming course that sort function, every sort function has a minimum of time complexity of n log n. So this is also n log n. Okay, so time complexity here is n log n. Now back to the initial problem, right? What was our initial problem? Key, you are given n integers, you want to print all the odd elements in the non-descending order. Can you do it now? Okay, just write the code in the chat. Hello, am I audible now? Okay, then let me start sharing again. Okay, so the screen is visible, right? Yeah. So I just discussed about how to declare a multidimensional vector. For vector, you can create it. It stores the data type, right? And in data type, you can pass in another vector. And again, instead of int, you could have passed it another vector. Okay, so any level of depth would be feasible. And to resize it, uh, if you just write it name 100, it will create 100 vectors as a vector of size 100, which stores empty vectors each of that particular index. But now, if you want to create a grid, like say grid of 100 cross 100, you could have used 100 vector int 100. So this is just the syntax. You can remember it, and it will be used as it is everywhere. Okay. So more generally, uh, for creating a 2D vector of size nm, syntax is vector, then data type v n vector int m. Okay, and now with uh, filled with e, let's say you can pass e here, right? So this thing is correct. This thing, yeah. So that's it about vectors. Let me just yeah. And now we will talk about pairs. It is just a small topic, then we will move to the problem. So pairs mm, it stores two values of different data types. So what does pair says? Pair means two values, right? And unlike now, for arrays also we were using same type of element. For vectors also we were using same type of element, but the size can be dynamic too. But now here we have only two values, but now it can store two different types, right? So let's just go to the syntax. Okay, and we go about declaration, pair data type 1, data type 2, and then name. Okay. So this is if you want to store two things like name and marks. For every student, you want to store name and marks, or you can use, so name will be a string, marks will be an integer. It is equals to Abhishek. Done. Okay. So this is the main use of the pair, right? Now, if you have the problem, there is just one more thing to learn about pair. Whenever we try to compare two pairs, right? Suppose there are two pairs P1 and P2, and we are comparing. mm, then it will first compare the first elements of both of them. If they are same, then only it will compare the second element, right? So this is a very crucial thing about pairs, which you will, and because of this only, the most use cases of pairs are there. Let me just write it down. Comparison of two pairs. Okay, so okay, so let's say if you have a question, given the name and marks of all the students, mm, given the name and marks of all the students, print their marks in non-decreasing order. Okay, there is one thing, like here, this sorts the element in non-descending order, non-descending or decreasing order. Now, what if we want to for non-increasing order? What is the syntax? Sort iterator 1, iterator 2, and then greater data type parenthesis. So this thing you have to remember. Is this thing clear? Let me just write it down. V dot end, and then greater. This is a keyword, and then data type. What is the data type? Vector V is storing it as integer, right? And then a pair of parentheses. Okay. And after this, if I try to print our vector V, it is printed in the reverse order. Okay. So this thing is clear. And one thing regarding for loop, if I do if I do I plus plus here, it will not change the value of the the element of vector v, because we are using auto I. It is similar to call by value. It creates a copy of the element and then prints it. And if we do any operation with the I, it will be done on the copy only. But if you want to actually modify the value, you can use this and then it will become call by reference. Okay, so this is just a small detail. Let me just check. N rows and M columns, sir. Yeah, that was N rows and M columns. Sir, can we have vectors of type pair? Yes. In STL, you can nest it as much as you want. You can create a vector of type pair. You can create a pair containing vectors, right? Right, one integer and one vector, both vector, one string, one vector, anything. So anything is possible. Any level of nesting, these vector pairs are treated as data type only. So wherever I have written data type, you can write vector or pair there. At any level of nesting, you can create pair of pairs. Okay, so that is possible. Okay. So if this is the problem, what you can do, you can create a vector of pair containing. Now, see, we want to uh, print them in sorted order, print their names. Let's change, print their names in non-decreasing order of their marks, right? So for that, what we can do, we need to compare the students based on their marks. So we will keep the marks as the first value. Okay, here I show you how to assign the value, but how to print. For printing the value, you can use student uh, dot first to get the first value, in this case Abhishek, and student dot second to get the second value. Okay, you can also assign them from different values separately. Let's say Pranjal. Okay, so now I want to sort them based on their marks, right? So I'll first put integer like marks as the first property and then string for the names. And I will create an array students. And let's assume we have taken the input, then I will sort the students and we want to sort them in non-decreasing order. Let's say non-increasing, then what we would have written. Okay, just write the statement to sort the students vector in non-increasing order. Write it in the chat. No, Sarthak, there are two mistakes. The data type is not integer here of vector students, and that int is to be written in angular brackets. And write the complete statement for sort. starting from sort, students dot begin, like that. Okay, let me just roll it down to that for your reference. Sort students dot begin, greater pair. Vijay again, the data type of students array is not int. Pranjal Singh, string you, okay. There is missing parenthesis and one angular bracket as well, because you have to put two angular brackets at the end, right? One for pair and one for greater. You have put only one. Raj Gautam, there is one missing closing parenthesis. Yeah, but I think you guys have got the idea. Yes, Stormy. Yes, this looks correct. So let me just write it myself as well. Students dot end, then greater pair int string and then parenthesis. Okay. Now this will sort it in non-increasing order, or to be simplified, let's say decreasing. And after that we can just use for auto I column students. We want to print the names, right? C I dot second. Okay, so I hope this one is clear. Just write one thing before we move on to the final problem. Just tell me how you would take, you have created a vector of size, vector v of size l. Okay, so everybody listen carefully. You have a vector v of size n, and you want to take input of that vector, input into that vector using range based loop. Write the syntax key. How will you take the input of that vector using range based loop? This thing I just talked you few minutes earlier. अच्छा, सबको समझ में आया ना प्रॉब्लम क्या बोली है मैंने? एक बार लिख दो 1 0 के लिए. ओके, राज से नहीं आया. ठीक है, कहने का मतलब ये है, तुम्हारे पास एक वेक्टर है v जो उसको तुमने n साइज का डिक्लेयर किया है. ठीक है, अब तुम्हें उसका इनपुट लेना है यूजिंग रेंज बेस्ड लूप. ठीक है, तो तुम कैसे लोगे? मैंने रेंज बेस्ड लूप बताया, वेक्टर बताया, रिसाइज करना बताया. ठीक है, मैं कह रहा हूँ तुम्हें इनपुट भी लेना है रेंज बेस्ड लूप को यूज करके. अब हमें प्रिंट करना तो आता ही है, तो मैं कह रहा हूँ इनपुट भी तुम रेंज बेस्ड लूप करके लो. अच्छा, अब प्रॉब्लम क्लियर है ना सर? राज, प्रत्युष। ओके, राज को क्लियर है। ठीक है, प्रत्युष को भी क्लियर है। अगर किसी को और ना क्लियर हो तो पूछ लो, कोई डाउट है तो प्रॉब्लम में। तो यार छोटा सा कोड होगा इसका तो। वेक्टर वगैरह डिक्लेयर करने की जरूरत नहीं है। या दिस विल वर्क। नहीं, मैंने क्या बोला था कि मेरे पास ऑलरेडी वेक्टर का साइज n है, तुम लोग पुश बैक कर रहे हो और n टाइम्स पुश बैक करोगे तो 2n हो जाएगा साइज। कशिश, आईवेक। ठीक है, तुमने आई के अंदर इनपुट लिया, फिर आईवेक के अंदर वापस डाल दिया, तो इनफाइनाइट चलता रहेगा ना। बार बार एलिमेंट ले रहे हो, आईवेक का साइज बढ़ाते जा रहे हो, और फिर से वो फर्स्ट वाले लूप के अंदर इंक्रीमेंट करता जाएगा साइज के अंदर। अच्छा, एक हिंट, पुशबैक का यूज नहीं होगा। सिंपल सीन यूज करना। ठीक है, और एक छोटी सी चीज जो मैंने अभी बताई थी, कॉल बाय वैल्यू और कॉल बाय रेफरेंस, वो चीज यूज होगी। हम्म, प्रांजल, तुम्हारे वाले में ना रेंज बेस्ड लूप है, और तुम के अब है डिक्लेरेशन की जरूरत नहीं है। डिक्लेरेशन यू कैन अज्यूम कि इट इज ऑलरेडी देयर, जस्ट राइट द फॉर लूप। Okay, I'll wait till 55, then I'll tell the solution and we'll proceed to a problem. Sir, can you please tell what is the error in this and why it will be of 1? Yeah, okay. That is because I said कि मैंने already अपने वेक्टर को 2 n साइज का इनिशियलाइज कर चुके हैं, and then you are pushing n elements again. I told you again and again कि पुश बैक करने से हमारे वेक्टर का साइज एक से बढ़ जाएगा। तो इनिशियली इट वाज n, यू पुश फर्स्ट एलिमेंट, इट बिकेम n+1, फिर n+2 हो गया, फिर n+3 एंड सो ऑन। अगर तुम n एलिमेंट्स पुश करोगे इट विल बिकम 2n। ठीक है। हंसिका, नहीं, रेंज बेस्ड लूप नहीं है, और vi = t। This will work, but try to use it do it using range based loop। मैं ऐसा क्यों करवा रहा हूँ? क्योंकि रेंज बेस्ड लूप से इनपुट लोगे तो काफी सीधा पड़ता है, बट द वे यू आर इम्प्लीमेंटिंग इट तो और ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट हो जा रहा है। ठीक है। मैन इन ब्लैक। ओके, सो ही हैज रिटन समथिंग, बट वो चीज याद करो ना यार कि मैंने क्या बोला था। कॉल बाय वैल्यू होता है जब तुम ऑटो आई करते हो। ठीक है, तो उसके बाद तुम आई के अंदर कुछ भी चेंज करोगे, वो वेक्टर के एलिमेंट के अंदर रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं होगा। वो आई की एक अलग कॉपी बनाता है और उसके अंदर चेंज करता है। एंड व्हाट यू नीड टू डू टू चेंज द एक्चुअल एलिमेंट। ओके, राज गौतम says ampersand. धीमंत, you don't need to use star. Again, Pranjal, in your code also, no need to use star. Okay, let me just write it myself. So for auto I colon v. Okay, so I have texted in the chat only. So I hope you guys can see it, right? So this is so short and simple, right? Just use it. So whenever my size is fixed, I try to take input this way only. Right? You don't have to I equals 0, y is less than and I plus plus, and then C in A of I, rather than just this ampersand I colon V C in I. Okay, so understood. Just write 1 and 0, 1 or 0, and then let me just share to you the problem of the day. Okay, Vishal says 0. So Vishal, can you please unmute and ask what you didn't understand?
Explain that statement, how you ampersand works that in that.
Okay, uh, let me just give you the example. Initially, we have our vector v. Let's see. Okay, what I'm doing, I'm equating I equals 0 and then printing I. Now what will be the output? V का size है 6.
6 times 0 आएगा.
है ना, 6 times 0 आएगा. Okay, let's try it. Yeah, we got 6 times 0. And now what will be the output of the second for loop now?
2, 3, 4 up to 6.
0, 1, like what was the previous value? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why is that happening? Because whenever we are just using this I, okay, simple I, it is copying the element. The actual element is getting copied into I, and then any change to I will be a change to the copy of the element, not to the actual element, right? So if you want to make change to the actual element in some way, you need to put at a ampersand here, right? Uh, you must have studied this in call by reference thing, right?
Yes.
I believe that you guys were
Location में
taught.
refer.
Yeah. So yeah, this works like that only. Okay, so that's why I was asking you again and again, like how to take input. So if you take input without ampersand, what will happen? When we resize the array, it will become 0, right? All the elements will be 0. And when we are trying to use a for loop for auto I colon v without ampersand, then it will copy the value 0 into I and then you are taking input into the I to the copy of the element, not to the actual element. Okay, so that's why it will the values will not be stored there. Okay, so mm, mm, cool. You guys are aware of the Adcoder uh, website, right? Okay, so let me share you. The problems is visible, right? एक बार 10 लिख दो. Pranjal says no. Okay, since there are many yeses, let's assume that it is visible. Okay, for Adcoder you are not aware. अच्छा, Adcoder के बारे में किसके कितनों को पता है? Okay, so like Code Forces and Code Chef. Okay, let me just tell you. Like Code Forces and Code Chef, Adcoder is another site to practice competitive programming. And for now, like it conducts contests mostly on weekends only. So since today is Saturday, today I think today is a contest, and there can be contests of like varying difficulty. And if there is a beginner contest, like say, yeah, this is for today, 5 of Feb from 5:30. Today is a beginner contest. See, you can see this is Adcoder beginner contest, so you can try that. The problems are good, and few problems are pretty easy, so you can try to solve them. And since you have started learning STL, you should be able to see and understand the solution if you are not able to solve. Okay, so you can try that out. But for now, let's just focus on this problem statement. Uh, okay, so yeah, problem is visible, right? Now, let's see what is the problem. Say, Adcoder City will hold a mayoral election, and there are two candidates, Aoki and Takahashi. Okay, so names are weird. ऐसे नाम इसलिए क्योंकि ये एक जापानीज वेबसाइट है, सो ठीक है. तो उसके अंदर क्या है, देर आर एन टाउन्स, ठीक है, और हर टाउन के अंदर क्या है, ए आई प्रो आओकी वोटर्स एंड बी आई प्रो ताकाहाशी वोटर्स. उसका क्या मतलब है कि वहां के लोगों को दो तरीके से डिवाइड कर सकते हैं हम, कि एआई लोग जो हैं जो आओकी को वोट देंगे, और बीआई वोट लोग जो हैं वो ताकाहाशी को वोट देंगे. ठीक है, हर टाउन में एआई, हर टाउन का एआई और बीआई हमें गिवन है. ठीक है, अब हमारे अब क्या बोलती है प्रॉब्लम, कि ताकाहाशी क्या कर सकता है, वो आ, हर टाउन में स्पीच दे सकता है. ठीक है, और अगर वो किसी टाउन में स्पीच देता है तो क्या होता है कि उस टाउन के सभी वोटर्स जो हैं, सबके सब ताकाहाशी को वोट देंगे. ठीक है, भले ही वो पहले आओकी को देने वाले थे, लेकिन अब वो ताकाहाशी को देंगे. ठीक है, तो ताकाहाशी ने परसुएट कर दिया सभी वोटर्स को कि जिस टाउन में भी वो स्पीच देगा, उस टाउन के सभी वोटर्स उसे वोट करेंगे. ठीक है, ऑन दी अदर हैंड, कि इफ ही डज नॉट मेक अ स्पीच इन सम टाउन, तो क्या होगा कि जो प्रो आओकी वोटर्स हैं, जो आओकी के वोटर हैं, वो आओकी को वोट करेंगे, और जो ताकाहाशी के हैं वो वोट ही नहीं करेंगे. ठीक है, तो मैं प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट फिर से रिपीट करता हूँ कि अभी तक हमारे पास क्या है, कि इलेक्शन होने हैं. एन टाउन्स है, हर टाउन्स का हमें पता है एआई वोटर्स जो आओकी को वोट करेंगे और बीआई वोटर्स जो ताकाहाशी को वोट करेंगे। ठीक है। अब ताकाहाशी के पास ऑप्शन है कि वो टाउन में स्पीच दे सकता है, और अगर वो किसी टाउन में स्पीच देता है तो उस टाउन के सभी वोटर्स, चाहे वो आओकी के हों चाहे वो ताकाहाशी के हों, वो सब के सब ताकाहाशी को वोट देंगे। लेकिन अगर वो किसी टाउन में स्पीच नहीं देता है तो क्या होगा, तो आओकी वाले वोटर्स आओकी को वोट देंगे और ताकाहाशी वाले वोटर्स किसी को वोट नहीं देंगे, ना आओकी को ना ताकाहाशी को। ठीक है। अब प्रॉब्लम क्या कहती है कि ताकाहाशी का गोल है कि उसे आओकी से ज्यादा वोट चाहिए। ठीक है, तो उसे कितने टाउन्स के अंदर स्पीच देनी पड़ेगी, कम से कम एटलीस्ट लिखा है, सो वी नीड टू टेल कि उसे मिनिमम कितने टाउन के अंदर स्पीच देनी होगी। ठीक है। अब एक बार ये बता दो कि प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट सबको क्लियर है या नहीं। ओके, कोई ऐसा जिसको ना क्लियर हो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट? ओके। अच्छा, अगर एक बात बताओ, अगर उन्होंने बोला ये नहीं एटलीस्ट ना लिखा होता तो आंसर क्या होता? हमें कम से कम नहीं बताना, आ, हमें बस ये बताना है ताकाहाशी को कि वो कितने उसमें टाउन में वोट करे कि जीत जाए। एन, सम सेज एन, या बिकॉज जब वो एन के एन टाउन में वोट स्पीच दे देगा तो क्या होगा, आओकी को कोई वोट करेगा ही नहीं, सबके सब उसी को वोट करेंगे, है ना? तो एन विल बी अ गुड आंसर। ठीक है। एंड बट इन्होंने क्या पूछा है, ताकाहाशी क्या है, आलसी है, उसे चाहिए कि मेरे को मिनिमम कितने टाउन के अंदर स्पीच देनी पड़े। ठीक है। अच्छा, अब इसके ऊपर थोड़ा सोचो 2 मिनट कि क्या करना चाहिए हमें इस प्रॉब्लम के अंदर। या सॉल्यूशन नहीं भी समझ में आ रहा तो एक बार प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट ही दोबारा रीड करो ताकि प्रॉब्लम अच्छे से समझ में आ जाए। ठीक है, देन वी विल सी कि हम इसे कैसे सॉल्व कर सकते हैं। AI BI में से कौन सा ग्रेटर है, दैट विल बी गिवन टू अस इन द इनपुट, राइट? कि किसी किसी भी सिटी में कुछ भी ग्रेटर हो सकता है, किसी में AI ग्रेटर है, किसी में BI, किसी में बराबर। सो वो हमें अभी नहीं पता चलेगा। हम्म, ओके आदित्य ask, सर ओवरऑल वोट स्प्लिट होने चाहिए ना? हाँ, ओवरऑल सारे टाउन्स का मिला के। Sort AI plus BI in vector, find total sum, sort in descending order till where sum of AI plus BI exceeds the sum of remaining AI till that town. Pranjal, somewhat correct, but there is one thing wrong. Check if it is really कि ये सच में AI plus BI होगा. राज, I didn't understand. क्या समझ नहीं आया मुझे, क्या कहना चाह रहे हो तुम? Let's discuss. हमसे सिर्फ AI होगा शायद. प्रांजल से इसकी BI होगा. ओके, लेट्स स्टार्ट डिस्कसिंग. तो ये बात सबको क्लियर है कि तकाहाशी को सबसे स्पीच उसमें देनी चाहिए, उस सिटी में देनी चाहिए जिसमें सबसे ज्यादा फायदा हो, है ना? सो ग्रीडीली तकाहाशी should give speech in the city where there is maximum profit. ठीक है. Now the question is, what is the maximum profit of a city? ठीक है. So first statement clear है कि somebody has sent the code. Okay, so let's see it later. First, just tell me if the first line is clear. कि Takahashi should give the speech in the city where there is maximum profit. Okay. Now we just have to determine what we have to determine कि maximum profit किसी city में speech देने का क्या होगा. तो हाँ, दो चीजें हैं कि इलेक्शन में क्या हो रहा है कि या तो तुम अपने वोट बढ़ा लो, है ना, या तुम सामने वाले के कम कर लो. दोनों ही तुम्हारे लिए प्रॉफिट में ही गिना जाएगा ना. हाँ, it would be where the other participant votes are less. नहीं, लेट मी कंप्लीट। अभी तुम लोगों का गलत है, ठीक है। तो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग कि वोट में क्या है कि या तो तुम अपने वोट्स बढ़वा लो, या तो तुम सामने वाले के कम करवा दो। तो किसी सिटी में लेट्स से कि दोनों के 10-10 वोट्स हैं, ठीक है। और एक सिटी के अंदर ताकाहाशी स्पीच देता है, ठीक है, जिससे उस जिसमें जिसमें 5-5 वोट थे, मान लो 5-5 लोग हैं दोनों के। तो ताकाहाशी के स्पीच देने से क्या हुआ? हाँ, पहले पहले जो था ताकाहाशी का, उस सिटी से कोई वोट नहीं मिल रहा था जब उसने स्पीच नहीं दी थी। अगर उसने स्पीच दी तो क्या हुआ? कितने का फायदा हुआ उसका? 10, राइट। ओके, तो ये बात क्लियर हुई कि लेट्स से कि अभी आ, एक सिटी है जिसमें दोनों के आओकी और ताकाहाशी दोनों के 5-5 वोटर्स हैं, ठीक है। अभी अगर ताकाहाशी उस सिटी में स्पीच देता है तो उसका कितने का फायदा हुआ? AC, नहीं नहीं, अभी मैं कैसे पूछ रहा हूँ कि ताकाहाशी के वोट कितने से बढ़े। अभी मैं सिर्फ ये पूछ रहा हूँ कि एक सिटी थी जिसमें 5-5 थे दोनों की, एंड देन ताकाहाशी गेव अ स्पीच देयर, तो ताकाहाशी के वोट कितने से बढ़ेंगे? 10 से, राइट। एंड इफ और अगर ताकाहाशी ने उस सिटी में, उस टाउन में स्पीच दी, तो आओकी के वोट कितने से गिरेंगे? 5। तो ओवरऑल बेनिफिट कितना हुआ ताकाहाशी का? या 15। क्यों? क्योंकि उसने अपने 10 बढ़ाए और आओकी के 5 गिरा भी दिए। तो ओवरऑल डिफरेंस कितना क्रिएट कर दिया उसने अपने और आओकी के वोट्स में? अब 15 का। नहीं नहीं, अभी अभी लेट्स नॉट हरी, in which she should give speech in which Aoki vote is max. No, we should not say that. Okay. Let's see now. If the if Takahashi gives speech in the highest city, right? Then Takahashi's votes plus equals to AI plus BI, and Aoki's votes minus equals to AI. Overall benefit or profit. Uh, जितने इसके इंक्रीज हुए, AI प्लस BI, प्लस जितने आओकी के डिक्रीज हुए, दोनों ऐड होंगे। 2 स्टार AI, ठीक है। तो ये बात सबको समझ में आई कि किसी भी सिटी, आयत सिटी में स्पीच देने का बेनिफिट कितना होगा? 2 टाइम्स AI प्लस BI। ओके, एंड नाउ इसके लिए एक बार 10 लिख दो कि ये पार्ट क्लियर है या नहीं। Okay, so this is clear. So what greedy choice now we have? सबसे पहले उस सिटी में जाएंगे जिसमें हमारे लिए सबसे ज्यादा बेनिफिशियल होगा, है ना? देन हम उसके बाद सेकंड में जाएंगे जिसमें उससे कम बेनिफिशियल होगा लेकिन बाकी सबसे ज्यादा, एंड सो ऑन. तो वी विल इटरेट इन द ऑर्डर ऑफ डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर ऑफ दिस बेनिफिट. सबसे पहले मोस्ट बेनिफिट, देन उससे कम एंड सो ऑन. ठीक है, तो हमें सॉर्ट किसके बेसिस पे करना है? दिस बेनिफिट के बेसिस पे. ठीक है, अब लेकिन हमें बेनिफिट तो ठीक है, हमें साथ में ये भी तो याद रखना पड़ेगा ना कि ये सिटी कौन सी है, राइट? क्योंकि हमें अगर ताकाहाशी किसी, हम मान लेते हैं कि उसने इस सिटी के अंदर स्पीच दे दी, तो हमें आओकी के वोट्स से घटाना भी है उसे, और ताकाहाशी के वोट्स में ऐड भी करना है ना? तो वी नीड टू नो कि विच सिटी इज दिस. तो ये हम कैसे कर सकते हैं? हम पेयर में सॉर्ट कर देंगे, राइट? कि हमने क्या किया, हमने एक पेयर बनाया. किसका? प्रॉफिट का. और सेकंड पे दूसरे एलिमेंट में हमने क्या रखा, कि दूसरे एलिमेंट में हमने क्या रखा कि ये कौन सी सिटी का प्रॉफिट है. ठीक है, एंड देन वी सॉर्टेड. जब हम सॉर्ट कर देंगे तो वी जस्ट हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ द सेकंड एलिमेंट. सबसे पहले हमें कौन सी सिटी में जाना है, फिर कौन सी में, एंड सो ऑन. ये पार्ट क्लियर हुआ? लेट मी जस्ट फर्स्ट वेट, लेट मी जस्ट write it in the chat as well. ठीक है, अब एक बार ये बता दो कि अभी तक जो भी बताया मैं इस प्रॉब्लम को लेके क्लियर हुआ या नहीं. इसके बाद फिर वी विल डायरेक्टली जंप टू कोड. पेयर वाला पार्ट ठीक है. हाँ, हमने क्या कहा था, हम प्रॉफिट को डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर में सॉर्ट कर देंगे. लेकिन क्या सिर्फ प्रॉफिट से हम अपना काम कर सकते हैं? नहीं, हमें ये भी तो डिटरमाइन करना है ना कि इस सिटी में स्पीच देने के बाद तकाहाशी और आओकी के स्कोर क्या होंगे, है ना? वी हैव टू डिटरमाइन दैट एज वेल. सो वो डिटरमाइन करने के लिए हमें उस सिटी का, जिस सिटी में अभी ताकाहाशी ने स्पीच दी है, उस सिटी का हमें ये भी तो जानना ना कि उस सिटी में एआई और बीआई क्या था, ताकि हम ताकाहाशी के स्कोर में एआई प्लस बीआई ऐड कर पाए और आओकी के स्कोर में से एआई घटा पाए, है ना? तो फॉर दैट हमें प्रॉफिट के साथ साथ हमें क्या स्टोर करके रखना पड़ेगा कि वो सिटी कौन सी है जिसने ये प्रॉफिट दिया है. ठीक है, तो ये स्टोर करने के लिए हम क्या यूज कर सकते हैं? पेयर यूज कर सकते हैं. बिकॉज पेयर कैसे स्टोर सॉर्ट करेगा? पहले प्रॉफिट के बेसिस पे, है ना? और प्रॉफिट से मैं तो मैटर नहीं करता हमें कि हम कौन सी सिटी पहले जा रहे हैं. ठीक है, ओके. सबने तो नहीं लिखा यार वन. समझ नहीं आया क्या? Okay then. Let's move to code now. First, let me just remove everything from here. तो लेट्स सी कि हमें इनपुट कैसे दिया है, एन दिया है, देन हमें दो दो वैल्यूज दिए हैं, ए आई और बी आई। ठीक है, तो वी फर्स्ट डिक्लेयर एन and let's take variable for both of their scores. Takahashi is 0 initially and Aoki is 0 as well. Okay, and then a n b n, ठीक है। अब इसके अंदर भी हम इनिशियली कौन सा सिनेरियो क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, जब ताकाहाशी ने एक भी सिटी के अंदर स्पीच नहीं दी है। ठीक है, तो तब तब अगर वो किसी भी सिटी के अंदर स्पीच नहीं देगा तो क्या होगा, आओकी वाले जो वोटर्स होंगे वो आओकी को वोट करेंगे, लेकिन ताकाहाशी वाले वोटर्स कुछ नहीं करेंगे, है ना। तो वी विल जस्ट ऐड टू द स्कोर ऑफ आओकी, आओकी प्लस इक्वल्स ए आई। ठीक है, अब क्या करना है हमें, हमें वो वेक्टर बनाना है और एरे भी बना सकते हैं, पेयर इंटेंट, लेट्स से पी एन। लेट्स कीप इट वेक्टर ओनली, आज वेक्टर पड़ा है तो यूज कर ही लेते हैं। ठीक है, अब हमें क्या करना है, पी आई डॉट फर्स्ट, फर्स्ट में हम क्या स्टोर करेंगे, फर्स्ट स्टोर्स प्रॉफिट, एंड प्रॉफिट कैसे निकलेगा, टू टाइम्स, हमने यहाँ पे निकाला ही है, टू टाइम्स ए आई प्लस बी आई, टू टाइम्स ए आई। ठीक है, और सेकंड क्या है, स्टोर्स सिटी, ये वाली सिटी कौन सी होगी, आई होगी। ठीक है, आफ्टर दैट क्या करेंगे, हम सॉर्ट कर लेंगे, पी डॉट बिगिन, पी डॉट एंड, ग्रेटर, हमें डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर में करना है ना, ग्रेटर पेयर इंट इंट एंड देन पेरेंथेसिस। ठीक है, हमने सॉर्ट कर दिया। अब हम क्या कर रहे हैं, अभी हम देख रहे हैं कि अगर इससे इस वाले के अंदर ताकाहाशी वोट करता है या नहीं। ठीक है, सबसे पहले हमने आंसर, एक आंसर वेरिएबल रखा और उसको हमने n दे दिया शुरुआत में, क्योंकि n में तो हमेशा पॉसिबल है। तो हम क्या करेंगे, अब i के अंदर सबसे पहले हमने सिटी निकाली, वो क्या होगी, pi डॉट सेकेंड। ठीक है, अब इसके अंदर क्या होगा, ताकाहाशी के स्कोर के अंदर क्या ऐड होगा, a ऑफ सिटी प्लस b ऑफ सिटी। और आओकी के स्कोर के अंदर क्या ऐड होगा, क्या सब्ट्रैक्ट होगा आओकी के स्कोर से, a ऑफ सिटी। ठीक है, इफ ताकाहाशी, अगर यहाँ पे ताकाहाशी का स्कोर ज्यादा हो जाता है आओकी के स्कोर से, देन हम आंसर को क्या कर देंगे, i+1। बिकॉज 0 है तो हम एक बार, मतलब एक सिटी को यूज कर चुके, 1 होगा तो 2 सिटी को यूज कर चुके होंगे, तो आंसर को i+1 करके वी विल ब्रेक, एट द एंड वी कैन प्रिंट आंसर। सर सिटी i+1 होगी ना, See, हम सिटी को बस इंडेक्स निकालने के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं, तो अगर तुम i+1 डालोगे तो भी कोई इशू नहीं है, पर फिर वही तुमको सिटी इंडेक्स तुम्हें -1 करना पड़ेगा फिर से। ठीक है, अगर हम वहां पे i+1 डालते तो यहाँ पे यूज करते हुए हमें सिटी -1 और सिटी -1 यूज करना पड़ता। ठीक है, अभी एक बार 0 1 लिखो कि कोड क्लियर है या नहीं। ओके, बाकी लोग ओके, चलो बाकी लोगों को भी और क्लियर हो जाएगा, एक बार हम रन करके देखते हैं। So we chose this test case, its answer should be 1 and हमारा भी 1 ही आ रहा है। ठीक है, let's try with another one. आंसर 3 आ रहा है and it should be 3. ओके, ठीक है, सबमिट करके देखते हैं फिर। लेट्स कॉपी का कोड। ओके, साइन इन, लेट्स ट्राई टू सबमिट। रॉन्ग आंसर, रियली। let me see. I think it might be because of long, because our values are big and we are doing two times and then addition. It's just two hash define int long. Okay, now if I try to submit, yeah, it worked. सर आपने आंसर आंसर इक्वल साइन एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए. ओके, सी अगर तुम कुछ नहीं भी करोगे ना आंसर की वैल्यू को, इफ यू कीप इट नथिंग, लाइक इफ आई से, अगर तुम इसको ऐसे भी रखोगे इंट आंसर, देन आल्सो इट इज परफेक्टली फाइन. I just needed some value, so I used an. It doesn't matter. ओके, इसमें भी सबमिट करके दिखाना है क्या एक बार कि ये भी वर्क कर रहा. ओके देन. अच्छा, मेरा एक और सबमिशन है, तुम लोग उसमें मैंने कि इतना ही है बस. इसके अंदर मैंने बी आई को सॉर्ट किया है, और मैंने मतलब पेयर नहीं यूज किया उधर सॉर्ट करते हुए. तो ये तुम घर से सोच के आ सकते हो कि वट कि बिना पेयर के इसे कैसे करेंगे. ठीक है, और मैं तुम्हारे रेफरेंस के लिए आज जो सॉल्यूशन डिस्कस हुआ है वो अटैच कर देता हूँ डॉक में. दिस डॉक इज शेयर्ड अमंग यू गाइस, राइट? Yeah, so this is the solution. Okay, so today's class is over content wise. So if you guys have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, you can leave. Okay, so you guys know long, right? So what I did, मैंने पूरे int को, कि जहाँ भी मैंने int लिखा है, मैंने डिफाइन कर दिया कि तुम उसे लॉन्ग मानो. लेकिन बाय डिफॉल्ट मेन फंक्शन जो है वो int ही रिटर्न करता है, लॉन्ग नहीं. तो अगर तुम चाहते हो कि 32 बिट का ही इंटीजर हो, तो तुम उसको एक्सप्लिसिटली ऐसे लिख सकते हो, जैसे मैंने इसके अंदर लिखा है int 32_t. अदरवाइज अगर मैं इसको भी सिर्फ इंट लिखता तो इसको भी वो लॉन्ग ही मानता और फिर वो एरर देता. बाय डिफॉल्ट मेन फंक्शन 32 बिट का इंटीजर ही रिटर्न करता. ठीक है, Sir, I was not able to attend the starting half an hour, so can you please upload this? Okay, recording will be uploaded, I guess. Okay, I'll wait till 45. अगर किसी को कोई डाउट है तो पूछ लो, वरना I'll end the video chat. The problem practice कहाँ करे? For now, uh, because you are still practicing implementation part, try to solve the HackerRank implementation. Let me just show you where. Let's go to the home page. In problem solving, go to problem solving. Uh, Here, there is implementation part, right? You can click on warm up implementation both, and also if you want, you can click on easy, and then try to solve all the problems. So just like for me, only this problem is left in implementation easy. So you can do this. Okay. After that, we can provide you resources. जो कोड हैकर रैंक पे प्री डिफाइंड होता है तुम उसे सिंपली रेज कर सकते हो. It doesn't matter. There are some complex things, and some of which even we are not able to understand. So you should not take this as a priority. You can leave them as it is, or just erase everything and start coding from scratch. Mm, okay. So do you guys have any doubt? Anyone? Anything? Okay then. Then I'm closing this video chat. Okay then. Bye.